after you leave here, you ought to know of the 6 items that every child and adult should have with them at all times. 1's a pocket knife. 2 is a pocket knife sharpener. And 3 is a fire starter. Now, with young people, you need to instruct them in those 3 things, but you also have to supervise them, because you'll use up a few Band-Aids with cut fingers, and if you don't watch out, they'll burn your house down. start starting fires in your living room. So when you come away from this, you ought to know that there's 6 items: pocket knife, knife sharpener, fire starter, compass, whistle, and microlight. And if you know how to use those things, you'll be fine. And no matter where you are in the world, they will serve you well.
Is a whistle?
Yeah. And one of those doesn't have the whistle in it because it's in my pocket. Look.
Okay.
Now, our 6 children are spread all over the world, and we now have one child at Oxford University in London. He's on the faculty there in philosophy. Another child is a lawyer with the State Department with the American Embassy in Paris. I had a West Point graduate who, after Obama downsized the military, he is an engineer with a circuit board maker in Hartford, Connecticut. The son that graduated from this little college up the road on the Connecticut River at Dartmouth, he eventually became a doctor, and he's a medical oncologist. And he treats people with cancer. He didn't go into OB because he thought that was too hard. So he likes to poison people with chemicals that have cancers. And my daughter, who went to what I thought was a girls' school on the Shenandoah, I was informed they were a women's college. And she went on to get her PhD in journalism. And then the next little girl went to a girls' school, which I found out was a women's college on the Hudson. And she is now a high-ranking entrepreneur with the evil Koch brothers company, Georgia Pacific. And I think she's just about shattered the glass, and she should be president in another few years. So that's basically, all these children have been each educated a year abroad someplace. And they have all been to hundreds of different countries in the world. I just got a postcard from Monaco. The child who's in Paris went down there with his wife to see Prince Albert of Monaco and see that little small principality on the Mediterranean. So, but anyway, they go places and do things, and they all carry these 6 items with them. If they're flying a plane, they put the check-in baggage, the pocket knife goes so nobody seizes it. But it serves them well everywhere they go. Now, you ready for part 2? This is a double hitter, okay? All right, part 2 is called The Wonderful World of Glock. And what I want you to do is get familiar with something that has come out in my lifetime. Because there's this engineer in Vienna, near Vienna, named Gaston Glock. Over the years, he and his wife learned how to make metal with plastics. They made curtain rods. And then one time, the Austrian army asked him to make an entrenching tool, which is part plastic and part metal. Then they made a knife for the Austrian army. And then finally, the Austrian army was replacing its World War II P-38 pistols and wanted a new pistol. Now, Gaston Glock knew nothing about firearms. So he sat his engineers down at the table, and they passed around 5 or 6 different brands, and they came up with what is called the Safe Action Pistol. This pistol has parts that are plastic and parts that are metal, but it only has 35 parts. To assemble and disassemble, it is almost idiot-proof. And so to prove all of you are not idiots, I'm going to have each of you assemble and disassemble America's pistol. 75 to 80% of law enforcement people in this country carry Glocks. And Gaston Glock was so smart. One day, he goes out to the SHOT Show in Las Vegas. Smith & Wesson is introducing a new caliber called the 10 millimeter short and weak, or 40 caliber. And Gaston Glock goes over to the ammunition manufacturers, grabs a handful of bullets, takes them back to Austria, and tells his engineers to redesign the Glock 17, the first one that came out, to make the Glock 22. And he beat Smith & Wesson by 18 months to the market. And so most cops in this country, up until about 2 years ago, were all carrying the Glock 22. Now with increases in ability with 9 millimeters, they've all dropped back to shooting 9 millimeters now. But anyway, that's what your local cop will be carrying most of the time. Now, one of the things that you can think about is, as you go through life, how precious is life to you? Do you all know CPR? Do you know how to do cardiopulmonary resuscitation? Somebody falls out with chest pain, do you know how to immediately jump in and save their life? All right, do you know how to do a Heimlich maneuver? If someone puts their hand in their throat like they're choking on food, do you know how to go behind them and express the plug in their windpipe? Y'all know how to do basic first aid, how to stop bleeding if someone is hemorrhaging. You know how to put a tourniquet on if you need to. But all those things allow you to save life. Now think for a moment, these tragedies in Buffalo and Uvalde, Texas, many lives have been saved if there had been one citizen who was concealed armed, who was proficient and could have done a one-shot stop. There were 21 lives that could have been saved at one place. So that is what you need to consider. Should you be armed? And should you accept the obligation and responsibilities you have? Now, just because some of these Glocks have 15 rounds or 17 rounds, it is a mistake to ever shoot a bad person 17 times because that's how many bullets you got in your magazine. You'll get a bad press. You'll be called all kind of names like you're a bigot or racist and all that stuff. So you want to get good at what you carry. And the person, we emphasize a one-shot stop. Now, just because you have something for your own protection and those of your family, do you practice enough so that you would only have to expend one round to stop one person? And that's important. Now, there's an old adage that you need to think about. Rifles rule, shotguns secure. All handguns are good for is to work your way back to what you should have started out with to begin. But if you are a good marksman with your rifle, you own territory out to 1,000 yards. If you're a good shotgun shooter, you own territory out to 50 to 100 yards. If you're a good handgun shooter, you own most shots that with handguns are between 3 and 7 yards. So do all your practices 3 and 7, then work back to 15 and work back to 25. But get where you are confident in yourself and that you have accepted the responsibility that citizens need to accept. Now, accidental discharges are bad things to happen and you never want to be responsible for it. Every round that comes out of your handgun has your name on it. And if it hits an innocent person, that's your responsibility. So this is the Glock 19. It's a small pistol. It's the oldest Glock I've got. But to make sure it's safe, I first of all remove the magazine. It has no rounds in it. Then I look with my eye into the chamber. I'll doubly check. It's both visible and physical. I put my pinky in to make sure that chamber is empty. Sometimes when it's dark and you think that it's empty and it's not, you can have an accidental discharge. So always do that. Then, pointing in a safe direction, drop the slide, depress the trigger. If you're right-handed or left-handed, if right-handed, just grab it like this, pull it back about, a quarter of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, and then let it go forward. Off it comes. One part, the frame. 2 parts, the recoil spring. 3 parts, the barrel. 4 parts, the slide. 5 parts, the magazine. So I'm going to pass this around, if you don't mind. Do you? And you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the magazine goes in last. We'll go reverse with this one here. Once again, I look, make sure the chamber's empty, put my little pinky finger down, pull the trigger, pull it back a little bit. Now all Glocks are the same. It doesn't matter which one you get. They all feel stripped the same way. They clean the same way, they lubricate the same way, and they fire the same way. It helps if you have fingernails. All right, once again, slides off. Frame. Recoil spring. Barrel. Slide, and magazine. So, you want to go this way? Which way do you want to go? Huh?
Are we supposed to be putting it together?
Yeah. Oh, where'd the other one go?
Right there.
Are they putting it together? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's go this way. Why don't we start with you? All right. Now, I want you to read the inscription on the slide. You know your Spanish?
Sí.
See?
Ready?
En español. Hey. Sí. But con la pistola, the inscription on the slide says what?
Slide. Brigada Antiterrorista.
Antiterrorista. Brigada Antiterrorista. Now that was advertised in a Shotgun News for $300. They said it came from an elite anti-terrorist unit in Central America. Now, having lived in Central America and done a lot of work down there, there's nothing elite in Central America. That is not Spanish, that's Romanian. It looks like Spanish, and you can converse with Romanians in Romanian if you know a little Spanish, but this was a Romanian pistol when they went from 9mm to 40 caliber. All right, first of all, you got it upside down, but that's okay. Remember, if you were on active duty in the British Army or the Belgian Army or any of the other people who've adopted the Glock, you would have a lot of experience in working on this.
Right. And then there's the little wire.
Yeah, that's the recoil spring.
Did I put it in the wrong spot?
Yeah. All right. You see, this is a nipple and this is a flat plate.
Yeah.
Nipple goes forward here. Now, Gaston Glock is the second richest man in Europe, exceeded only by Putin. But Gaston Glock got his legitimately, and Putin stole his. So, but it's amazing someone who had absolutely no idea.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. To lubricate these, it only takes 3 drops of oil. You put 1 drop of oil on the barrel and slide it along with your finger to get it even. You put 1 drop of barrel of oil right here in the ridge that the rails go in, and 1 drop here. That's it. So this is almost idiot-proof. The second annual law enforcement match we had, one of my friends from the Conway Police Department shows up. His department has double action only SIG pistols. He gets up there and he shoots his course, and he didn't do well, and he said, "I'm going home, I didn't do well." So I said to Billy, "Come into the clubhouse, we need to have a sit-down conference." I said, "Son, you see this Glock 17L? You've never seen it before, you've never held it before, you've never fired it before, but it's sighted in perfectly for 25 yards, and you're going out there and win the match." Billy goes out there and he wins the match. He goes back to the police headquarters. He starts talking about his favorite subject, himself. And he tells everybody how easy it was to get the second shot off, how accurate it was. So pretty soon, everybody's thinking Glock over there. But you know, Glocks cost money, $300 or $400 a piece. So I saw one of the selectmen, he's now deceased. But I said, "I tell you what, I'll get Glock to come up here and give everybody in Conway Police Department a brand new Glock." So my friend with Glock came up, gave them all 25 brand new Glocks. They wanted 40 caliber, but that's what police were all shooting in those days. So Glock is real smart as far as marketing goes. They knew that every cop who got a Glock, his wife or girlfriend would soon be carrying one, that his mother would get one, that his daughters would carry one. And so by donating 1 Glock, they effectively sold about another 5 or 6 to 1 for that. And that's the way they've been marketing this item very cleverly. Now, why do 75 to 80% of all the law enforcement carry them? It's just because they're so easy to train a person with and so easy to maintain. And they've even got Glocks in different colors, so if you're off in the woods and you drop it, you can find it on. So, do all of you feel like you have an obligation to be a lifesaver by being armed at all times? And do you feel like you have the responsibility to be a one-shot stop shooter? I have a book somewhere, and I think it's in my car, but if one of my assistants ever shows up, he'll fetch it. But it's the biography of Gaston Glock, written by a guy named Paul Barrett with Investors Business Weekly. He actually interviewed Gaston Glock. He flew over to Vienna, saw his factory. He even wanted to go down and shoot in one of the International Defensive Pistol Association matches. He got with a guy named Mas Ayub, who is head of the Lethal Force Institute, but also a retired New Hampshire policeman. And he shot with him and got him and his female friend to put him through it all. He actually reported on his ability to, as a first-time shooter, to shoot in a match with all these well-known shooters. So now, if you want to, If you don't join the NRA, which I think you should because they did endorse Trump and they will endorse him again because he has stood up for your Second Amendment rights over all these clowns in the big cities who want to defund the cops and, open up people to mayhem and murder. They ain't going to support him again. I would join the Glock Sports Shooting Foundation. That $35 initial payment. Every year they send you a coupon that lets you buy a brand new Glock at law enforcement prices. So instead of paying $500 or $600, you pay $300 or $400. And that just means when you buy one, you have to buy two. Now, law enforcement is now adopting the policy of always carrying two handguns. They have their everyday carry, the EDC. Then they have their bug backup gun because a policeman wants to be able to do a New York reload. A New York reload is when your first gun runs out of bullets, you pull out your second. That's a lot faster than shoving a new magazine in or a new cylinder in your revolver. You just get used to practicing a lot because you can't just get a gun and shoot one magazine and think you're an expert. And shoot as in many competitions as you can. Now, these guys who are in law enforcement that I shoot with, they teach me something new every time I go. So, any other questions? Well, that was short and quick, sweet.